Okay, good morning, people. It's 10 o'clock and we are starting our session today. What we're going to do now for the next 15 minutes, I'm going to go briefly about the analytical conclusions from yesterday and all the previous sessions. And then we're going to have 15 minutes, a very brief recap of the particular case studies.
Yeah, you're not blocking, just blocking the screen, you're not blocking the view.
The view
camera is there.
Okay. Yeah, the camera is coming from this. Terminology based on the case studies that we've heard and 12 years of research prior to that. Let's start with the basics of single silo. What do we mean by single silo? We mean an originator event that we traditionally associate with the classic disaster, an earthquake, a flood, a pandemic, fire. These are natural disasters, which call them, of course, the man-made response to that, what causes the impact. This is what we care about. Then we have wars and belligerencies, all kinds of. And then we have socioeconomic meltdown, when society melt down because of political factors that are not related neither to nature nor to war. Single silo, okay? There is a societal vulnerability, or more than one. That's an existing condition of society. There is an event, could be an earthquake, could be pandemic, that causes stress, building on the vulnerability. If three conditions are met, we have a degree of uncertainty. We don't know exactly what is happening or when it is happening or what we need to do, uncertainty. We have a problem of mismatch capacity because of the time dimension. It is coming now or soon, and we don't have sufficient time to regroup, to increase our resources to deal with it. And the impact, the expected impact, call it a risk, the expected impact is significant. People may die, property may be hurt, bad things will happen, are likely to happen. That's three conditions are met, this stress turns into an emergency. If the system somehow recovers from or somehow responds to it adequately or sufficiently adequately, okay, we're able to sort of cope with it. If not, we have a disaster. Disaster is impact-based. Well, after a disaster, we have to recover. So what are the stages? This, during vulnerability and the stress can be ongoing. It could be a series of events that keep on consistent stress on some systems. We have the ex ante. We have mitigation, adaptation, transformation. These are the things we can do before critical event. Sometimes in the literature, these three are lumped together to preparation. Sometimes we distinguish between preparation on the one hand and mitigation on the other hand. The two lines of literature here, but this is single silo. This we know from our past research. Then we move to response or respond. We respond to an immediate situation now. Things in law change here. Things in law change definitely here. And then post-disaster, we have recovery and rehab. Things in law change here. This can be recurring. So the loop here has to do with recurring, because if we don't fix or deal with properly with the vulnerabilities, another event will come and then we will repeat. So in California, we have a climate, fires, and they keep recurring one after another. This is still single silo. Okay?
Single silo is one event.
One disaster.
It's one disaster. Single silo is one disaster in the sense
because of other conditions.
Yes,
but it's a single.
It's single silo because we categorize it in our brain. Reality is chaotic, but we in our brain view it as related. This is a fire issue.
One cause.
One cause, exactly. This is a war issue. Now, again, if you could view it from a different perspective, you would not see it as a, but this is how we organize the chaos in reality. We say, this is the issue. And we allocate, legally speaking, we allocate the power to the Ministry of Defense or to the Army, because it's related to security, the whole society.
Environment.
It could be, exactly, it could be that the issue in Sudan is environment because of water, but we don't see it this way, so we see it as, we focus on the civil war there because of how we organize. Okay. Now we move to what happens if you have more than one silo. And here we have three types of more than one silo.
Types that could.
Two types, and then a third one, which is
complex. Right.
complex. So cascading is.
But this is all within one course.
No. Here. Sure.
Yeah.
So cascading is that one silo disaster/event leads to, is related to, is connected to another one. So it could either be a cause and effect. It's a question of linearity, how we define linearity. It can either be a cause and effect because something happened, the other thing happened. We can think of the causality as such, or they're correlated. We don't understand the exact causality, but they are lumped together. One follows the other, even if we don't understand the causality specifically. One follows the other, and they cascade. So we can give examples in a second, but that's one. And again, these are built on the vulnerabilities. It's because of the vulnerability that one thing happens and the other social system, each vulnerability, single silo, each vulnerability is situated in a social system, Lumanian social system. It can be law, it can be politics, it can be the market, it can be bureaucracy, its different components, the health, the education, it can be religion, it can be, okay, so vulnerabilities are related to social systems.
Technology too.
Technology is not a system, but it is the market and science. Market and science together is technology, and there could be a technological vulnerability, but not the system, it doesn't matter. If something becomes cascading because there is again, building on Nadav's presentation and Fadi's and Nativ's presentation, is because there's a network, there's a chain production of just like there's a chain of production of products or services, there's also a chain of production of disaster.
And also it's not linear, it's stochastic.
The cascading can be less linear. So linearity, and you will talk about it more, linearity here is, Nativ can talk about it, can be confusing sometimes, you don't not necessarily understand it, but one follows the other. Multiple has to do with temporality. Two unrelated things happen in the same time frame, sufficiently because of the vulnerability and stress. The events happen sufficiently close together in time to generate extra stress on the systems. Classic example of that is COVID in Israel. Why is COVID in Israel a classic example of this? Because we had an unrelated constitutional crisis. And we kept going to elections again and again and again without the system producing any result. And then we have COVID at the same time. COVID in other jurisdictions.
But wait, even in Israel, COVID and then maybe the war could be cascading.
Okay, so here's a cascading in other jurisdictions. So you have COVID, which is, by definition, it generates an economic crisis. Why? Because if you want to deal with the disease, you have to, because you don't have, there's a vulnerability issue, you don't have inoculations or other medical responses, you have to keep people in the houses, at home, stay at home. When you have stay at home, the economy suffers. So you have to navigate between this and that. So you deal with the economy, the health sufferer. This is the British and Swedish response was, okay, let's lead and then you suffer for the medical. Okay, so these are cascading, but the time is very short. So you can also say that there's a multiple dimension here. But technically speaking, it's cascading because one leads to the other.
Could you say that in Israel you had both multiple?
Yes, you could say, which leads us to the third category of complex. What is complex? Complex is where three things.
It's complicated.
Well, it's complicated. Complex is this category where three things happen. If all of them happen, we're in serious trouble. But so the first thing is it's happening. Just remember extreme condition in the single silo. There is an extreme. I didn't put it. I should have put it on the extreme condition is a position where the state itself, the rule of law itself, fails. It's the whole political unit is kind of stretched. This is this. So Weimar Republic is, you can talk about what to do with cascading, provided you have a society that is still functioning, or social systems that are still there. Complex is where you reach a certain point close to the second dimension here is the complexity of knowledge. You don't really understand fully what is happening. It becomes very complex in this sense with acute impact. And the third component here is that you cannot deal with it because of the change of production only in your jurisdiction. By definition, it's transnational. Even if you try the hardest, it's coming from other jurisdictions. You have to extend to the level of transnational, international, and the other systems as well are stressed. So that's a complex situation. Okay. I will open it up. So our challenge now is in the next 15 minutes, because 10:30 we leave it to Stefan, is to make sure that we analyze our case studies according to this terminology. And if we're missing a complex or a multiple, then we have to find one, because in the papers we have to have at least one case study of each, and we have to show what is different. Is there anything different when we move from single silo to those with respect to the rule of law, democratic backsliding, or any other variable? Because if you say different with respect to what? So we have to have the with respect to what issue here. When you move to those clusters of, yes, sorry.
I just points of clarification, because I'm not familiar with these terms, and I'm not familiar with.
Neither are we. We are now inventing them.
I'm just trying to clarify for myself the differences between multiple and complex. It's very vague.
So cascading and multiple complex can be either cascading or complex, can be either cascading or multiple,
Or single silo.
or even single silo. But it's a point where you reach the very collapse or the near point of a collapse of a society. Now, multiple, you can have multiple, but society is not collapsing. You have multiple, but everything still, it's a different kind of challenge. Maybe you need different legal instruments. Maybe you did, but you can. So the United States can be suffering from a flood, fires, a constitutional crisis, but there's still, it doesn't reach the level of complex.
But then, Amnon, if I may, complexity is just a matter of degree, right? It's not a different dimension. It's just a matter of degree.
You're right. It's a matter of degree, but the degree makes a difference in kind. You're right, Stefan, we talked about this. The degree makes a difference in kind, just like from emergency to an extreme condition, it's a matter of degree that makes a difference in kind, but also there is an issue of transnational dimension here, which is pronounced, because when a system begins to, the question of whether you need humanitarian intervention to pierce the veil of sovereignty, even if the system doesn't agree, the rest of the world can say, oh, nonetheless, we're sending our forces in because we need to save whatever, even if you disagree because of your sovereignty, we're nonetheless imposing this on you, etc. This can only be relevant in cases of complex. So somebody has to say complex, and then things change.
So what we want to make sure is that the case studies are either multiple or cascading. So after we hear the theory and see if we agree on the definitions, we have to revisit the case studies and see if they actually apply or if they're a single silo events, which can be very, very difficult. Okay, so what we really want to do is identify cascading and multiple events. Sorry.
No, I wanted to suggest, I don't know, this is only just a dimension that might clarify the differences in these categories. That's the angle of time.
The time. Okay.
Partial.
But
Okay. You're right.
I just want to elaborate on it. Seems to me from what you wrote, complex, something that happens simultaneously at the same time.
Complex shouldn't be there. It can be
Complex at the same time, many things happen.
Listen,
Cascading.
there is no defined definition in the literature of these terms.
Yeah.
We are
actually creating for our working, and if we will need to change the definition in the course of the research, we'll change it. So this is just a working definition for our.
suggestion for complex.
I'm trying to add to the clarify the definition.
Yeah.
Suggestion.
Yeah.
A dimension that is related to this definition. Seems to me that cascading is something which something happened and another thing happened. It's different times. Even though the first cause might lead to another thing and another thing and something, but you can make an order in terms of time. In the complex, things happen simultaneously.
The multiple happens simultaneously. The multiple happens simultaneously. But look at cascading. Again, think of two cascadings at the same time. So you have one cascading, one leads to the other, and then another cascading. At a certain point, it will be complex in the sense that.
But complex isn't on the same.
Maybe you don't need the multiple.
What? I'm sorry? No, we need the multiple because you can have a fire and war at the same time, or an earthquake and war at the same time.
You can have multiple cascading.
You can have multiple cascading.
You can have 2 times the Japanese 2011 disaster in the same region.
Yes.
A nuclear disaster that affects a lot of countries. It's not just a single site of fire. It's a multiple cascade, for example.
That you can have. But you can see that if you have war and an earthquake at the same time, this is not cascading because it's not, they're non-related. You cannot, you need the category analytically. And you need this category analytically. Why? Because
Just multiple single silos.
you need this category analytically. And I don't mind putting it here. It doesn't matter. It has to be a category that when we reach that, things change. When we reach this level, things change because systems collapse, states collapse, system collapse. This is, so we need to realize this. But yet, wait, we'll have more time to talk about it. I'm not going to, I learned the lesson from Midorsi. This was just something, we'll have after the theory, we'll spend a lot of time talking about this.
Put a lot of weight on theory.
Yes.
Just want to get nervous.
To prepare ourselves for the discussion, I think that we need to seriously think if, according to our definitions currently, we even have cases of single silo.
We'll talk about this. I think we have cases of single silos. For example, I think that the Lebanese case is a case of vulnerabilities. There is a single silo that
or in other words, that our definitions must guarantee that we'll be able to differentiate between the cases. So
let's talk about this now. So I'm putting this aside.
One thing I think we have to decide the rule of law itself, or democratic backsliding, would be considered as a disaster, or in our analysis, it's a consequence of.
It can be both. I think
many people think that the rule of law
it can be an originator. It can be an originator that leads to the inability to deal with the health system or the inability to deal with war. Now, if there is a rule of law crisis, war will be impacted. People will say,
but still,
traditionally
speaking, I think you also in Minerva, we're moving from a disaster towards its impact on the rule of law.
And now
we know that there's also cyclical relationship, but I think that our thrust is to ask the question, we had a single silo and the theory was all about how it affects the rule of law. Now we're moving forward to more complex definitions and what are the effects on the rule of law.
But again, the rule of law can be also the dependent variable, the variable, it could be a vulnerability. There's a vulnerability in the rule of law and then just a condition.
Is Trump a disaster?
Not yet. Not yet.
But that's the question.
The question is
Multiple.
No, but it's not caused by any other.
okay. Let's move on.
No, can I ask one question?
Yes.
Why? I just want to ask about the assumption that why do we have the assumption that there is different tools that will be necessary for each of these situations? That's the first part. And second of all, how, I guess from a methodological perspective, how would you identify that based on so few case studies? Like, it's hard for me to.
Okay, so
This is exactly what Stefan will address.
exactly. So both questions. We're not assuming. We're asking the question: does it make a difference that? And if the answer is no, we're going to treat single silo and single silo and cascading in multiple exactly the same. What matters is whether things are complex, regardless. That could be one definition. You know, if it's complex, regardless of whether it's single silo, cascading, or multiple, this is what matters. Maybe, but at least from a perspective, I think there's my intuition is at least from the perspective of preparedness, ex ante. At least if you want to prepare the ex ante, if you know a cascading, if you have a sense of what the cascading can be, you can prepare better. But maybe I'm wrong. Methodologically, we talked about how to verify impact assessment or system impact assessment. We might need to do that to make sure that the terminology meets what's happening on the ground. We've done this with single silo, the issues of earthquake. We can expand on this. But what I want to do now in the remaining 8 minutes is to hear from you guys a little bit about yesterday. So yesterday we had COVID. We talked a little bit about COVID. We think COVID, what we need to do with COVID is realize the health, not just the pandemic rule of law, but the health economy in the rule of law. So there is a trade-off with economy, and we can talk about this. Okay. With respect to the Brazilian case, the question with respect to the Brazilian case is we have our vulnerabilities, economic vulnerabilities. We have an issue of ongoing discrimination because, you know, white versus non-white versus others. It's another vulnerability. And then the question is whether it's not a single silo case. It was a disaster, a clear disaster, which then led to change of constitution, which is an interesting, it goes back to Nadiv and Ellie's discussion before, it led to an interesting change in terms of expectation from the rule of law and a constitutional law more specifically, but it's still single silo. I don't know about the Lebanese case. We talked about the case in Lebanon and the case maybe the case in Iraq or the Ebola. The case of the Ebola is interesting because it had a transnational dimension, but we didn't really follow through the transnational, international. That was left undeveloped. So we have to think, what do we want to say about this? The case of Sudan started from a complex situation. So the state of Sudan, the very starting point was we have a complex situation of a system that is trying to extract itself from a complex situation, and it's kept, you know, it doesn't have the resources, the capacity to extract itself from this failed state. So, but we have to think whether we want to, what else did we have to do? What am I missing?
And Brazil.
Yugoslavia,
Sudan.
So Sudan we talked about.
Lebanon.
So Yugoslavia, Yugoslavia is a case again of a system collapse. So it was complex because of civil war.
And cascading.
But the question is if it is cascading, if Yugoslavia is cascading, then we want to think more of the cascading.
Cascading means the causality. There is
at least a correlation. We don't. So things are clustered together because of existing vulnerabilities. Things happen in time.
Because of
An earthquake and a tsunami is definitely cascading.
Because we can show the physical causality.
There's causality. I'm asking, is there a cascading without causality?
Yes.
Yes, it could be because we don't understand. It could be. Yes, it could be the things tend to go together, but not necessarily. We cannot meet the level of causality because we don't have.
Yugoslavia had a change of regime, and you had a civil war. Even within Yugoslavia, that became Serbia.
So this, we have to think about it carefully, because if the state breaks,
that's not an extreme condition.
It's complex, but it's definitely a complex system because the system of Yugoslavia failed. But the question of what was the cascading, is it a single silo? Okay, there was civil war. So that's just single silo leading to complex. It can happen. If you have an earthquake, which is strong enough, or you have a single silo climate, and civilization dies. So complex is very important, but it doesn't necessarily. Okay, so it leads. Complex is also, it can be also single silo, but we have to have the category. I don't mind keeping it here, but I need to see. I need to see if there's an element of cascading and multiple. Now, we might come to a conclusion, like Danielle said, that actually these things are not really important.
I must say I don't really understand the difference between cascading and multiple.
So I'll go over it again, but we don't have time because we have 3 minutes. Again, cascading is one single silo leading to another. Okay? So you have an earthquake. Because of an earthquake, hospitals cannot function, you have a pandemic. Okay, it leads to
cascading and multiple.
It leads to you have an earthquake.
It implies plurality.
Everything is more than one silo. We are in a more than one silo. These are more than one silo. You're right. Both of them are more than one silo.
You can have during a war an earthquake. Okay?
Multiple will speak at the same time. Yeah, but I can draw the lines. But okay, so we're more than one silo. Otherwise, you're not here. But this is one leading to another, either causality or correlation. And these are two unrelated.
It happens at the same time.
The meteor is falling, and you have war. Totally unrelated, but they happen simultaneously. Okay, so this is the difference. Now, maybe as Danielle is saying, the fact it's whether this or single silo is not relevant. The question is whether we reach this or not. And that's Danielle's point, and we'll keep it in mind. But right now, we're not willing to let go still. We still care about this. Now we have, yes.
Would it be correct to say that in multiple, one of the events, by definition, would be a natural disaster, a pandemic?
No.
Why not?
Because it could be war and a constitutional crisis.
Yeah, but I can always, that's my point exactly. I can always make an argument that it's one led to the other.
Maybe not. Maybe we were attacked. Maybe totally not. Maybe we were attacked. We were independently attacked by Hamas, not because of our crisis at all. Maybe Hamas had plans to attack us, irrespective of the constitutional crisis.
And what do you do with the argument that the result of the attacks, of the attack, was the dysfunctioning of the government or the democratic crisis prior to that?
Well, it's a question.
My argument is that any such thing is you're going to a narrative argument.
But it could be, as a matter of fact, that there was a disaster. Let's say that a war, we were attacked when we had the pandemic. Totally unrelated.
Yeah, that's fine. But that's because one of them is a natural disaster.
Okay, so there was an economic crisis and we were attacked. It could be. Yes, we 10:30 we have to, because they have to. I won't be able to answer, but yes.
No.
Not sure.
In terms of, I'm very task oriented. The question is, that's what I gather from the discussion, is that what are the primary missions, so to speak. This panel will come with a clear classification, these categories, and case studies that present each category. So then, our mission is to come with classification, clear classification. And the theory will go beyond that, beyond the classification.
And that's the goal of this workshop.
Stefan, I'm sorry that
That's the goal of this workshop.